Welcome back to Success with Steven. My name is Steven Smith. On this channel, we discuss all things financial literacy. A few months ago, I made a video about Tradeline Supply Co. So in this video, I want to break down Coast Tradelines. Now, we'll be discussing who Coast Tradeline is and how their services actually work. I'll also cover how some individuals are using Tradelines with limits as high as $50,000 or more to give their credit score a temporary boost, and that can sometimes be 90 points or even greater than that in a very short period of time. We'll talk about the types of results that you can expect, and we'll also discuss the risk and what you need to understand before spending a dollar and the honest pros and cons based on real customer experiences. By the end of this video, you'll understand if a $50,000 trade line can impact your credit profile and whether it's something that's actually worth your time. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Before we talk about Coast Tradeline specifically, let's start with the foundation, because if you don't understand what a trade line is, you're not going to understand the entire strategy. A trade line is simply a credit account that appears on your credit report, and that can be a credit card, a loan, a mortgage, a personal loan, or any other form of borrowing. Each trade line will contain information like the date the account was opened, the payment history, the credit limit, the balance, and the status of the account. All of that information contributes to how lenders and scoring models will evaluate your credit worthiness. Now, when people talk about buying trade lines, what they usually mean is buying access to an authorized user trade line. That means someone with a strong existing credit card account will add you as an authorized user on their account. So for clarification, you're not becoming the owner of the account, you're not taking over the debt, you're not getting the spending power unless a card is actually sent to you, and any reputable company will structure this so that you're added for only reporting purposes and not actual use of the card. The goal is for that account's age, credit limit, and low utilization, as well as on-time payment history, to show up on your credit report. That will help improve the way your file is looked at by scoring models and lenders. And Coast Tradelines describes its service exactly in that respect, helping people improve their credit profile through authorized user trade lines that are tied to established accounts. And that's the reason why people get so excited about trade lines. If you have a thin credit profile, or you have a short credit history, or utilization may be as high on your own credit cards, one good trade line can make your report look dramatically stronger for a period of time. Now, this does not mean that it fixes everything. It means that it can influence some major ingredients that go into your score and your overall profile. And that right there is the key. A trade line is not changing your character, it's only changing data points on your report. Coast Tradelines is a trade line company that sells access to authorized user trade lines through its website. Public business listings show that this business started in 2010. It's also based in San Diego, California. On the official website, Coast positions itself as a provider that helps customers browse, select, and purchase trade lines based on their credit goals. They also say they offer staff assistance if you want help selecting which trade line may have the biggest impact within your budget. That matters because one of the biggest mistakes that people make is assuming the highest limit is always the best choice. It even says on the website that quality really does matter more than quantity, and points people towards payment history, high limits, and low utilization. Now, let's get into the real reason why people actually care about trade lines in the first place. Building credit the traditional way takes time. It takes a lot of time, and if you've started from scratch, you might open a secure credit card, maybe get a credit builder loan, or maybe even a small unsecured starter card, and then you have to wait. And then you have to wait some more. And while you're waiting, life doesn't stop. You still might need to finance a car. You still might be trying to qualify for an apartment or even better insurance pricing. And that's where trade lines enter the conversation. Coast Tradelines openly markets trade lines as a way to improve your credit profile faster than traditional methods. Now, their site repeatedly frames authorized user trade lines as a faster credit building strategy and says that it can help people pursue goals like better loan approvals, lower rates, stronger credit card applications, and better overall credit opportunities. And that makes sense conceptually. Now, let's say that somebody has two small credit cards with a $1,000 credit limit. If both cards carry, let's say, a $500 balance, that utilization will look really bad, as well as having a thin credit profile. Overall, it's not impressive. Now, if that person adds a seasoned trade line with strong history and a large limit, it can change how their report looks almost overnight. Now, this doesn't work forever, it's not magic, but it is enough to matter in some cases. That's why Tradelines appeal to people who are trying to create leverage. They're not buying credit, they're buying time, appearance, and temporary strength inside a credit system. Now, whether that temporary strength is actually worth the cost is a completely different question, and we're going to get into that as well. Now, at the time of recording this video, Coast Tradeline says the process is pretty straightforward. You review your credit profile, you select a trade line that fits your needs, you place an order, and then Coast works with the account holder to add you as an authorized user. Now, the company does say that timing does matter and the account should appear on your credit report within one billing cycle, with most trade lines posting around 8 to 10 days after the listed statement date. Coast also says customers should set up credit monitoring and that fraud alerts need to be removed before adding trade lines, because trade lines will not post if fraud alerts are present. On top of that, it allows up to 3 trade lines per individual per month, but does warn that adding too many at one time can raise some concerns with lenders and may even affect your score in unexpected ways. Now, that part is one of the most honest pieces on the Coast Tradelines website, because some people assume, well, if one trade line is good, then 3 is even better and 6 must be like financial enlightenment, and that's not how this works. And after a certain point, too many sudden positive accounts can make your profile look strange. Not to mention that lenders are aware and underwriters are not clueless, and even automated systems can react differently depending on what is on your credit profile. Coast also says that while all trade lines may have the potential to post to all 3 bureaus, only certain banks have consistently posted all 3 in their experience, and they specifically mention banks like Bank of America, PNC, and Regions, for example. That's a very important detail, because some people will assume that every trade line will hit Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion equally, and that is simply not a guarantee. Coast even says that in its experience, most trade lines have challenges posting to Equifax. Now, that right there is one of the biggest reasons you need to understand this before spending any money. You aren't just buying a number on a screen, you're buying a time-sensitive reporting strategy that depends on the card issuer, the bureau, the statement cycle, and your own starting point. That's where people get this wrong. They see a giant limit and just start to think, I'll take that one, but a trade line is not just about the limit. Coast Tradeline itself even says that stronger trade lines generally have a longer history of on-time payments, then high limits, then low utilization, and that the older accounts with higher limits are often the best if you're looking to see a quick increase in your score. So in practical terms, here's what matters. First, age matters. A trade line has to be open for many years, and that can help your average age of accounts more than newer ones. Second, utilization matters. Coast says that it guarantees the trade line will post with perfect payment history and less than 30% utilization, and for a majority of the cards, it will be much less than that. A lower utilization trade line is always more attractive than a bigger limit with a higher balance. Third, bureau behavior does matter. If your main goal depends heavily on a certain bureau and the trade line you chose does not consistently report there, you may not be getting the effect that you were hoping for. And fourth, your own file does matter. A trade line does not exist in a vacuum. If your report is loaded with recent late payments, fresh collections, charge-offs, repossessions, or bankruptcy damage, then adding one nice authorized user account is not going to erase all of that. It may help give you like a small temporary boost and help improve some score components, but it doesn't wipe your slate clean and it will not help you get approved. So the right way to think about a trade line is not what is the biggest one on the site. The right question is, what weakness in my file am I trying to improve, and does this trade line specifically address that exact weakness? That is a much smarter way for you to play this. Now let's go over the pros and the cons, and we're going to start with the pros. Now, the biggest pro that I would say is speed. Coastal Tradelines markets this as being a faster path than traditional credit building, and their site says that most trade lines will post around 8 to 10 days after their listed statement date. So for someone who has an upcoming financial goal, that kind of timing can be very attractive. The second pro is structure. Now, Coast gives you an FAQ page, phone tech support, live chat, consultations. They're pretty direct with information and with posting windows. They also mention credit monitoring, fraud alerts, extensions, and I like that kind of transparency and support. That is definitely good in this industry. The third pro is transparency around limitations. Like, they openly say that results are temporary, they're not guaranteed. They note that trade lines can be expensive. They even explain the impacts that vary by credit profile and lender requirements, and even say that long-term improvements still depend on paying bills on time, keeping balances low, and reviewing your own credit report regularly. Again, that's not the language of a company that's pretending to be some magical cure-all. And the fourth pro is flexibility. Now, Co says that it allows beyond the 60-day posting period and does offer some support in selecting trade lines based on your budget and your goals. Now, this can matter for someone trying to time, like, let's say a pre-approval or an auto loan or something else that will require short-term financing. And one more thing that I want to add is that Coastal Tradeline appears to understand the strategic nature of this process. It's not telling you to just add a pile of accounts and hope for the best. It's explicitly warning you about adding too many trade lines at one time and says quality is more important than quantity. Now, the first con is that the benefit is, of course, temporary. Now, they plainly say that buying trade lines can give your score a temporary boost and that results are often short-term and not guaranteed. So that means if you use a trade line and do nothing else to build your own profile, then you can end up right back where you started once it falls off, which would seem obvious, but I would still say that is a con. Now, the second con is cost. Coastal Tradeline says that the cost can vary based on the age, credit limit, payment history, and even says that high limit trade lines can range from a few hundred to several thousands of dollars. The honest truth is, if you have a family member or a friend, I've talked about this before, you could ask them, you could even pay them to add you on there, and they may even let you stay on there for a very long time or several months or even years. So with that option available, I would always check with family members or friends first and save yourself the money. Because if you choose the wrong trade line or you use it at the wrong time, you can seriously just be wasting cash and maybe you get underwhelming results. The third con is reporting uncertainty. And they say this on their website, like they have challenges posting to Equifax and that only a handful of banks will consistently post to all three bureaus in their experience. So that means that your outcome may not line up perfectly with your expectations. And the fourth con is something that I would call lender interruption or lender interpretation. So even if a trade line will boost your score, some lenders and models weigh authorized user accounts differently, and approval decisions are never based on the score alone. Income does matter, and the structure of your credit profile does matter. Not to mention, existing debts matter, derogatory remarks matter, recent inquiries matter, the overall story of your file, all of that matters. So if someone tells you just buying a trade line will get you approved, that is really lazy advice. And the last con that I would say is that this strategy can be abused. So if someone is just renting credit strength instead of just trying to build their own, eventually it's like you're cosplaying your financial journey. Like, you're not going to be able to continue doing that forever. At some point, you'll have to either clean up your credit, build your own credit, and get this on your own. But this will be just a temporary fix to a long-term problem. So who is Coast Tradelines most likely to help? Well, in my opinion, the best candidate will be someone with a thin or fair credit profile who already has a relatively clean credit profile overall. And maybe they don't have like major derogatory marks. Maybe they just need stronger utilization, more age, or a better overall profile before applying for something important. In a situation like that, a well-chosen trade line can be a useful short-term lever. It may also help someone who is preparing for a very specific event. Maybe you want an auto loan with better terms. Maybe you're trying to improve like your interest rate for a mortgage, or maybe you want a better shot at getting a premium credit card. If you understand the timing and you know why you're doing it, then this can make sense. But this is probably not for someone who has a heavily damaged report full of recent negative items and you're hoping to just rent an account to try to clean this up. Like, this will not clean up years of bad financial habits. And even if you don't have derogatory information, if your income is weak, if your debt to income ratio is terrible, if your personal spending habits are still reckless, a trade line is not going to fix that either. And if you're the kind of person who wants permanent results from a temporary tool, then you're probably setting yourself up to be disappointed. And that's why I keep saying this is a strategy, not a lifestyle. So here's my recommendation. If you're already doing the right things right now, if your report is not a disaster, and if you have a clear short-term objective, Coast trade lines could be a useful tactical move. But if you're looking for this to replace discipline, to clean up like deep derogatory damage, or to give you some sort of permanent credit power without real work, this is not going to help you. Currently, we are on coasttradelines.com, and before we wrap up, I just want to take you over to the site, and they let you know, of course, on here, authorized user trade lines for sale, the fastest and most reliable offer to boost your credit score. And you can also look at their brokers club if you actually wanted to list your accounts here. Now, some of the trade lines that they use will be, again, Bank of America. They have Chase, Citi, Discover, Sears, and Barclays. Now, when we go back up here and we go to see trade lines, now we can take a look at what trade lines are currently for sale. You can pick your own trade line here. You can look at the actual state of origin if you want the states to match up. You can look at the credit limit, the history, which I think is the most important thing, your statement date, which will actually tell you when this should report. Remember, around 8 to 10 days after this date, and of course, the price of the account. The lines that have a star next to them are the best selling trade lines. All have posted consistently for 3 months or more. Now, they have value trade lines, which would be $250 or less. If you scroll down, they have age trade lines, which are 7 years or more. That's perfect for on-time history. And then they even have monthly trade lines, which are sorted by the statement date. Now, again, read the details here. If you need to post to all 3 bureaus, they tell you where to grab your trade lines from. And they have a 3 trade line per order maximum. And then don't forget, of course, the fraud alert. And if you have any second thoughts, they can cancel or adjust your order within 48 hours of submission. And then I highly recommend going over their FAQ page. They answer a lot of questions here, a lot of things we covered in the video, but still, I really enjoyed that they took the time to actually go ahead and do this. And if we scroll down, on Google, they have 56 reviews. While not a lot, it is 4.9, so that is a very high rating. That is just something to consider just in case. You can also text them. So if you have any questions, that is another way to reach out. And one other thing that I really appreciate here is that they have a trade line assessment. So if you go here to the very top to explore under FAQs, they have questions here that can give you a better idea of if this will make sense for you. Now, once you fill all of this out, you'll actually receive an invite to chat with the credit specialist who can then determine the best path forward. I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video. So at the end of the day, Coast Trade Lines is not really selling credit. What they're selling is temporary leverage. And sometimes temporary leverage is exactly what someone might need. A better rate on a car loan, a stronger profile before a mortgage conversation, a cleaner looking file before applying for, let's say, a business credit card or another credit card that's maybe a premium one. It's going to help you build an actual case to get approved. When you're dealing with situations like this is where this can make sense. But the smartest way is to use a trade line as a bridge and not a crutch. Use this to get across the gap, and then build your own history, build your own limits, and build your own profile as well as your own credibility. Because financial freedom does not come from renting someone else's credit strength forever. It comes from understanding the system and using these tools wisely, and then creating a file that stands on its own. Now, if you got value from this video, please drop a comment below and let me know exactly which part was the most important to you, and let me know if you might consider actually getting a trade line from them. And if you would like me to cover any other trade lines, then please drop that in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to look over that for you. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and you all have a wonderful day.